Hello and welcome to another virtual author event at the Poison Pen Bookstore. I'm John Charles, and we're delighted to have back with us again this year one of our favorite local authors, Jenn McKinlay. Welcome, Jenn.
Hi.
Before we get into our chat, I do want to stop and mention that Jenn will be signing copies of her new release, Killer Research. So we'll have copies at the Poison Pen. Feel free to go online, order on the web, or give us a call. We would be happy to hold a copy or copies for you. And don't forget, Christmas is coming up. They make wonderful gifts.
Shouldn't we order early because books are going to be tough to get this year?
Yes, that's a very good thing to say. Don't be disappointed. Don't put it off to the last minute. Order now. Now I feel like we're doing something on QVC or something like that.
I know. Get your copy today. Yeah, totally.
Okay, let's take a trip down memory lane. Just for those 5 people tuning in who've not heard your life story, tell us about who Jenn was before she became a best-selling writer. Rumor has it you got your start early on ratting out your siblings.
I did. They say, you know what you're going to be when you're really young. So my start was finding an old portable typewriter and being the candy freak that I am, writing up a little like couple page newspaper to the parents and then selling it for 25 cents so I could buy candy. But it was mostly ratting out who did what to who. So I was doing a public service or a family service, I like to think.
So at that point, you had no thought of being an author. You actually took a different career path. Is that correct?
I did. Actually, I had a lot of different career ideas. I think I was the person who was in the registrar's office, every 2 weeks, those first 2 years of college. And if I remember right, it was, they were just like, oh God, she comes again. I was a Russian major for a little while. I was a theater major. I was an English major. That involved too much reading. Isn't that ironic? I was cutting into my social time. And then, I was an art major for a little while, but the art class was at 8 o'clock in the morning and I could not get up that early. Like, no, this isn't going to work.
Did you go to ASU?
I did not. I went to Southern Connecticut State University. So I was in school in New Haven.
So what did you finally settle upon?
Finally, I realized I'd been there 2 years and tried on all the different possible majors. And then I was sitting in the library because at this point I had an apartment that was 3 bedrooms with 6 girls and 1 bathroom. I don't know what we were thinking. So I couldn't study in the apartment. So I would often, I had a little study carrel. I could probably walk into Bewley Library and find it again because it had a window so I could look out across the, green area, the lovely little grassy thing. So people watch. And I remember sitting there and thinking, it's so quiet here. It's so nice. I'm going to be a library science major because I knew they had the major and I'd worked in libraries before. So it was just a really good fit.
Well, that kind of is a natural segue into your current book, which is Killer Research, part of your Library Lovers series. Tell us a little bit about the series itself and then the new book.
The series itself, I started in Connecticut because that's where I'm from and that's where I studied to be a librarian. And my first 3 career years, I was the adult services librarian in Cromwell, Connecticut, which is a very lovely town on the Connecticut River. So I kind of cut my librarian teeth there. So when I wanted to write the Library Lovers series, even though I'd been a librarian in Phoenix, and for the county, for the city, for the Desert Botanical Garden, it was like I wanted to go back to my little small town roots. So I went back to Connecticut to set the library series there. And then there is a real area, have to do my directions, east of New Haven. And it's the Stony Creek area, and they have the Thimble Islands, which are real. So I knew I wanted to write in that setting. I wanted it to be a small shore town, a village, really. And I didn't want to deal with people telling me, well, that's never happened in Stony Creek, and you can't make that up, and that's not the name of the islands. And I was like, so I turned it into Briar Creek and the Thumb Island. but it's still, you know, totally based on that area. And a lot of the stories I've taken, there is a tour boat, so you can go around the Symbol Islands. And there's some amazing people who've lived out there. I think the cartoonist who did Doonesbury.
Oh.
And I don't know why I can't remember his name. And then his wife, Jane Pauley. I can remember her name.
Oh.
They lived out there. Like, I think that was their summer place or something, or, you know, if I remember the story right. But so a lot of people, and one of the presidents had a place out there during the Gilded Age. It was kind of a hot spot. And then I think they had huge Victorian mansions built on these islands. And then the hurricane of like 1938. See, this is why I didn't want to make it a real place, because then someone would be like, no, that it was in 36.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So 30-ish. Hurricane came and wiped most of them out. And I mean, they had some. There was one island that had a grocery store, a movie theater, a bowling alley, and they aren't super huge islands, but they could hold these big houses and all this cool stuff. So anyway, that's why I decided to set it there. I thought, well, you know, island history that I can corrupt as much as I want, and then a small town library, because as you know, as a recovering librarian, people are a constant, especially working with the public, source of, you know, murder and mayhem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how the series evolved. I knew I wanted to, because my dream when I was in library science was actually to be an archivist. And I did like an internship at Beinecke, which is their rare book and manuscript library at Yale. And I thought, oh, this is it. I want to wear the gloves, use the cool boxes, you know, awesome. But that was a lot more work, and I needed a job because, you know, the student loans kicking fast. So I ended up being a public librarian, and it's a good fit because I genuinely like people. But when I was writing this character, being a fiction writer, it's like, what would my life have been if I hadn't been a public librarian? It's like, well, let's make her an archivist. That'll be fun. So that's kind of how the main librarian came about. And then everything else is just kind of life experience.
Now, the new book, Killer Research, we could say it's all about the lemon.
It is all about the lemon.
And we hear her backstory. Is that just something that you decided now is time for readers to know more about? Tell us about the lemon.
The lemon is one of my favorite characters. Mm-hmm. And like, I think when I set out to write the library series, I really genuinely thought it would go for 3 books, maybe 6. So now this is book 12. So thank you, readers. I really appreciate it. It's just nice that everybody likes it as much as I do. But the lemon, when I wrote the first book, when I was a page, this is bad because if I name anybody, I don't want their feelings to get hurt, but I think they might have passed on. But then they could have families. So this is, anyway, we won't name names. But when I was 14, I was a page at the public library, and this was the East Lyme Public Library where I grew up. So kind of down the shore from New Haven. Niantic was the little village I grew up in. And one of the librarians is pretty much the role model for Ms. Cole. And she was a lemon. And my best friend and I were pages at the library, and we would shelve books together. And of course, we were best friends. We were in high school. So, you know, the whole time we were shelving, we were probably like little mice in the shelf, you know. And the lemon would, you know, come at us. Girls, shouldn't you be shelving? Yeah. We got a prom to talk about. But so she was kind of, I mean, she was a very nice woman, but she was very much a shusher. She was very much a traditional librarian. But as I got older, you know, and as the series evolved, it's like you realize nobody's a one-dimensional character. And I always thought, what is Ms. Cole's backstory? You know, why did her life why did she become this spinster librarian? So I think there was hints along the way in the series, but this book is where I really got to bust her out. And it was nice because, you know, we've been living in this crazy world with so much politics. And it was just kind of a natural thing to have her say, wait a minute, I don't like the way things are going in this town. I'm going to run for mayor. And it was, for me, as a writer, it was really empowering because I think every single one of us over the last few years, I don't care what side of the fence you're sitting on, has thought, if I was in charge, you know. So it was kind of nice to be able to write a book where I could make a character be like, if I was in charge. And of course, being a librarian, she's going to be pro-library. So that's kind of nice for me too. It'll be interesting to see, you know, how it works out for her.
Well, you were very realistic even though you're writing fiction, because Lindsay has to walk that line between being a public employee and trying to support someone in a public election. And cities, states, means it doesn't matter. They're very strict about that.
Oh, yes, they are. Yeah, I remember when I was working at the Central Library in Phoenix, and you probably had the same thing in Scottsdale. Mm-hmm. You know, as an employee, you always have those petition people out front, you know, gathered, and you always have to say, no, I work here, I can't. So I work here, I can't. Yeah, sorry, I can't. You know, and when people come in and they spout their politics, you just have to,
yeah,
well, what else can I help you with? Because you can't take a side, you can't, you know, which is good, because as a library, you should be, neutral. You know, right.
And then
but yeah, it was interesting for the director of the library, because you and I were underlings. Mm-hmm. This is, you kind of wonder, like a director having a staff person who's running, like I'd never had that. So it was kind of a nice flip, like, you know.
And there's also some backstory to the Cole character, and we get this company that's kind of a local legend, a cookie company. Were you perhaps inspired by another, shall we say, ice cream company? That might be
You caught that. It was funny. I forget what I named the cookie company originally, but my editor, and you know who she is, was just like, I think that's a little bit close to that ice cream company. And I was like, yeah, I know, but I like their ice cream. So she was like, you know, so we had to change it a little bit. Yeah. So we had to, you know, fix it. But yeah, no, it was definitely inspired by them and their story, and the backstory of Miss Cole. You realize she's got some layers, you know, which is fun.
Now, your mystery series, you've got several in the running, are marketed as cozy mysteries. How would you define a cozy mystery? And what do you think are the key ingredients you have to bring to the story?
You know, cozies are kind of fascinating to me, because I didn't know what they were when I started. And I don't think most cozy authors do. I've talked to other ones and they're like, yeah, I had no idea. They kept saying, I need a hook, and I didn't know what they were talking about. And it's true. You know, that when I look at the stuff I was pitching before I understood what a cozy mystery was, it was not cozy. And mysteries, you know, it's a very specific kind of market. And cozies in particular, I think, have certain things. You take a nice world, something really bad happens in it, and you have to right the ship, and good has to triumph over evil at the end. And I think the appeal of cozies is exactly that. I think most of us live in a pretty nice world. We like our friends, we like our family, we like our neighbors, we try to do the right thing. And then, you know, like everybody, bad things happen. And in the cozies, it's like, I think it's the connection between the reader and the characters. Like, you know, these people, you know, the busybody aunt, and, you know, the next door neighbor who bakes cookies and she's really bad at it, but you don't have the heart to tell her. I mean, these are like real people that we all know. So I think cozies, that's really the attraction. And then you have little hooks. So whether it's knitting or baking cupcakes or a library or, you know, chocolate, that's always a good one for me. And now we have these amazing books coming out. So there's, you know, Vivian Chen, I think I'm saying her name right. Yeah. So you have like, you know, fascinating Chinese food based ones, and it's a really exciting genre to be in. And I think the thing I really love about cozies is they always stand the test of time. Like, someone is always trying to declare the time of death on cozies. And I've been in this game since 2008, I think. And I think I've seen like, oh, it's over. Oh, they're all getting done. That wave is gone. And then the next thing you know, here comes like a tsunami of cozies, and you're just like, oh, you called that one wrong. Yeah. So I think the appeal is there, and I think it's staying. But I think it's because it's just so much like everybody's life. When you look at thrillers or noir, it's a bad world to begin with, and then worse stuff happens, and then at the end, it's still a bad world, but maybe we fix that, whatever horrific thing.
I think that's the definition of noir, is bad things happen and everybody dies at the end.
And there's nobody left.
Yeah. I think you're right about the lifespan of cozies is often decried as being over, but I think part of it is because in one sense, they take things and carry them through continuously. There's timeless elements to them, but they're also evolving. You mentioned like Vivian Chen, and I think the cozies, which is a really welcome change, is they're starting to be a little bit more diverse and inclusive.
Yes, it's fantastic. You've got some really great authors. There's Mia Manansala, who did Arsenic and Adobo, which is great. Abby Collette, Game of Cones. How is that not the best title ever? And I think what was the first one was A Deadly Inside Scoop.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, and they're diverse authors, and their books are great. So I'm happy to see all that on board, And then you've got like paranormal elements to them. And I mean, it's just, there's so much you can do. I don't think, we've been talking a little bit in the writer world with cozies, are they going to get grittier? Are they going to get a little bit darker? And it's like, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of them being a cozy. But what I could see is them getting a little bit more realistic. I think for me, I've always tried to have diversity of ethnicity, faith, lifestyle choice, blah, 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 in my ensemble cast. And I think we're seeing more and more of that. And I think we're seeing more leads that are diverse, which is tremendous and overdue, in my opinion.
I think there's a new author, Emmeline Duncan, who's kind of making a stab at a younger protagonist, somebody in their 20s rather than their 30s, 40s, 50s. So yeah, cozies are, they're here to stay.
Oh, definitely.
You've
I hope.
Been writing for a while, and you've had to come up with a number of ways to do away with characters. How do you avoid the dreaded Cabot Cove syndrome in your own writing books?
It's, because I'm hitting in the double digits now with Cupcake Bakery and Library Lovers. It's tricky. I mean, I think from the get-go with cozies, you kind of have to suspend disbelief by the third book. It's like the third book, really. You need to move. But for me, it's just, I'm hoping that the readers can do that. But the other thing is I try to introduce new characters, and maybe they bring their troubles with them. So, and then and now I'm at the point where I'm working on the next Library Lovers. Actually, I'm writing it right now, and it's called The Plot and the Pendulum. So it's got a little poke nod, but it's a cold case, because exactly that. It's like a librarian can only have so many, So then, you have to start doing a few cold cases, it's a challenge.
And then to a library conference. Didn't you do that?
Yes. Well, I didn't. Kate Carlisle did. But I have that on my back burner. So I was like, ooh. The problem with that is because you do have that ensemble cast, and your readers want everybody in every book. And not everybody is going to go to the library conference. And then the other thing with that is you've already built this great world. So when you travel in a cozy, because I've done it a couple of times, it's a lot to travel the whole crew and come up with the excuses of why they would all be there, And then in one of my books, when I was convinced cozies were dying, because I was listening to people like an idiot. And so Death in the Stacks, which is one of the library lovers, I worked in all the cupcake people really hard, and then all the hat shop people. I put everybody in that book because I was convinced it was the last cozy I was ever going to write, because I operate on paranoia. So I know the challenge of making it, and then trying to do an entire cast of 5 people from London, in a book that's about another. It's crazy. It's crazy. So.
Now you've written several series. Did you always know when you were writing them that they were going to run this long? Can you talk a little bit about the advantages as an author to series, and what are some of the challenges?
Great question. Every single time I've done a series, I was convinced it would end in 3. So I always had my series wrapped up on the third book. So then when they said, oh, we want to do 3 more, I had to double back. So a lot of readers will get, and I understand, annoyed. Why does there have to be a love triangle? I don't want there to be a love triangle. It's like, well, because I had to write 3 more books and I couldn't come up with anything else because you can only kill off so many people. So I don't think I ever really did a full-on love triangle where any of my characters actually dated anybody else, but there was always maybe a person of interest, you know, a possibility when things hit the skids with the main. But I think they pretty much stayed, not to spoil it for anybody, but they pretty much stick with who you think they should be with because I'm the boss. But so I think for a lot of people, that's the hardest thing, I think. You never know when your series is going to end. And even when you think it has ended, surprise, it's back. So for the Hat Shop, I was writing the 5th one, which was Assault and Beret. And it's set in Paris, which was awesome and fun. And I thought, of course, there's going to be another one. But that was one of those moments where cozies were declared dead. So it was like, so they were like, no, we don't think we're going to do any more Hat Shop. And I was like, oh man, I ended it in Paris and it's based in London. And I had the mother of all cliffhangers. Like I'd written it, I'd sent it in. And then they were like, no, I think we're done. And I was like, I need the book back because I'm not going to leave the readers like, you know, that would just be horrible. So I rewrote the ending. And then lo and behold, 2 years later, I had some time and I was just like, you know, I'd really like to end that series in London. Can I have it back? And they were like, sure. So then I got it back. And so now we're talking about doing another one. So, because I didn't marry off the characters and everybody's like, when are they going to get married? And I'm like, I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see. So maybe there'll be yet another. And this is the series that I thought was dead. So I think the challenge is definitely with the series, at least in my world, I never seem to know when the series is going to end. And that's for the overall story arc kind of challenging. Because once the characters are married off, is it still interesting? I guess we'll find out. And that's also the advantage to series, though, is you have these huge character arcs. You know, I was a big Janet Ivanovich fan, still am, but I haven't kept up, admit it. So I don't know if she ever picked between Joe or Ranger. I'm in the dark out there on this one. But I always think that's the other challenge with the series is how far do you grow the character in every book and how long is the series going to go? And I don't know, because then I look at Kinsey Nohon, you know, and I think, I really wanted that to go to Z. So, you know, series are tough.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest advantage is the world is built. So when I have to sit down to write a cupcake book, it's like I know it's Old Town Scottsdale. I know who all the players are. It's like going home. I don't have to build the world all over. If I had to build the world every time I wrote a book, I would not be writing as many books as I do, I don't think. So that's the huge advantage, I think.
Do you keep like a series Bible or notes? Or, I mean, how do you know where things are at? Because I'm sure if you get it wrong, you're going to get emails and notes saying, no, the library was on the north side of the river and not the south side. They couldn't have crossed there.
Yeah, well, I wish I kept a Bible. That would have been smart. But again, I thought all my series were going to end in 3 because who knew? So no, when I'm stuck, like I think a couple months ago, I couldn't remember. I have a character who has 7 brothers. And I couldn't remember all their names. So I just threw it out there on Facebook. I'm like, all right, you say you're my reader. Who knows all the Delora brothers? Name them. And then sure enough, like a ton of people were like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, Tony, that's the one I forgot. You know, so yeah. So I go to my people.
Whatever works, I guess it's the best thing. Let's talk a little bit about your writing process. Do you know when you're writing your mysteries in particular, do you have everything plotted out? Because mysteries do have to have that kind of clues planted and things like that. Do you kind of play it by ear?
Yeah, I work off an outline for sure, about 10 pages, mostly because if I don't, I get lost in the weeds and then the book is late and, you know, we're off. It's kind of like when I talk, I go off on tangents and I would write that way too. So I do have an outline, but the things I don't, because it's funny how different writers are. Other writers will say, oh, I can't have an outline, I would be bored. And then I think Reese Bowen and I were just talking about this. She's like, oh, I can't have an outline, I would be bored and I wouldn't finish the book if I know who the murderer is or whatever. And I was like, how do you get the book done? Because she's very prolific also. So for me, I do know who the killer is, and I usually know the why. I might not know the how, so that could be interesting for me, and I don't know all the little sub stories. So all the side characters, they'll walk onto the page and one of them will say something and I have no idea what they're going to say. And then the conversation gallops off in that direction. And I'm just like, oh, that was fun. Oh, we have to get back to the outline. So I have little surprises and fun, but the main trajectory, I will write notes to myself when I've had like a fun conversation or an unanticipated scene. The note, as I leave work for that day, for the next day, is check your synopsis to make sure I haven't written myself into some corner, because I've done that and it's horrible because no, I avoid that at all costs.
Why are revisions your favorite part of writing?
I love revisions. I love it. I think for me, I've been with my editor for 46 books. So she knows me, she knows my voice. She is not someone who nitpicks. So she really goes in and she'll just say, this doesn't seem in line with the characters we know and love, and it feels like, the hardest part is finishing that draft, hitting the end, knowing that there's still a lot of work yet to do, but also needing it out of your head for a while. And then when you get your revisions, it's somebody else has fresh eyes and they can just, the thing that always astonishes me is I will think I turned in a book. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, I did get, I'm good. And then it'll come back and she will make notes and I will be like I knew it on the inside, but I didn't know it. And so I'll read her notes and just, oh, that's totally right. I got to rethink that whole thing. So for me, and then I have enthusiasm to dive in and do the rewrite. Whereas if I was trying to do it on my own, rereading and rewriting, I think I would be in the nut house because I would drive myself crazy. So I like revisions because I like that input.
Now, in addition to conquering the world of mysteries, you've also written some romance and women's fiction. And just to remind people that may not have been around during the summer, you did have a book come out then called Wait for It.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that book?
Wait for It. Yeah, see, that's another one of those. It is technically a standalone, but it came from the first women's fiction that I wrote, which was called Paris Is Always a Good Idea. In the Paris book, I wrote a female character that was kind of uptight. And because I'm always looking for the joke or the humor, and that's usually the foil. You have the straight man and the funny guy. So when I was writing Paris, the sister Chelsea's pretty uptight. And then her sister Annabelle is this crazy wild child. Annabelle was just supposed to be a walk-on character in Paris. She was supposed to get her sister moving, but I wrote her kind of interesting. She was 28. She was a graphic designer. She'd been divorced twice. And I had to know why. So when we were kicking around ideas for another book, because I was under contract for 2, I sent in ideas and they were good and they were solid, but nothing was really like, oh yeah, I'm really excited to write this. And then, I was taking a shower one day. It's always driving or showering. So taking a shower and I was thinking about, you got to come up with something, Jen. You are under the gun. You need to come up with a really good idea that you're excited about. And then just out of nowhere, it was just Annabelle. And I was like, oh, yes, perfect. And then because I had moved from Connecticut to Arizona, I knew the kind of culture shock, vastly different places. And I thought, wouldn't that be a great journey for her to, leave everything she's ever known and start all over? And then I had to think about, well, why would she leave? And I thought, well, she has to be escaping something. So it was a proposal from one of the ex-husbands that kind of sends her on this trajectory of, And so she lands in Phoenix and she has to kind of grow up. grow up a bit.
Now's time for your philosophical question. So put on your thinking cap. If you could change one thing about the publishing business, what would you change and why?
Ooh, let's see how many people I can make mad.
Get rid of all editors. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. The publishing business is really interesting because when you get into the business, you realize that they really are so many specific cogs in the machine, you know? And I think people outside looking in don't realize how many cogs there are in the machine. The other thing they don't realize is it's business. Like, they don't really care if you're writing this great literary masterpiece if they can't figure out how to sell it. Like, the editor, maybe, I love this book so much, but I have no idea what to do with it. Yeah. I think that happens to a lot of writers, and it's unfortunate, but it's business. So I guess in a perfect world, I would love to like take that business element out of it, because when you realize, and I love the sales and marketing team that I have, they're amazing people and they're so enthusiastic and they love your work and they really try to promote you. So they're amazing. But it would be nice if, you know, publishing just wasn't, I mean, like chocolate is vegetables, you know, it's a perfect world, you know, broccoli, chocolate is as good as broccoli. But it would be nice if it, you know, if everything didn't have to be monetarily driven, you know, if we could make more decisions on creativity. Of course, I would probably be jobless, but, you know, that's fine. I just feel like sometimes when the bottom line is the bottom line, we miss out a lot of stuff. So I think for me, if I could change anything about publishing, I would make it more creative driven and less money driven, if that's a reasonable answer. I'm going to get fired tomorrow. Watch.
Well, you can always adopt a pseudonym and start out again. Okay, now go back to this summer, or even before this summer. What have you been reading this year that you'd like to share with other readers?
Oh, so many good books. I don't know if it's just that I suddenly locked in on, you know, I don't know, but there have been some really good ones. My favorite was probably Circe by Madeline Miller. And then, of course, I doubled back and read The Song of Achilles, which I was almost 10 years late on that one. I think it came out in 2012.
Yeah.
But just brilliant, because I never read anything like them. I highly recommend them. It just, you can't, I see, this is a book where I'm like, I'm sure an editor was like,
how do I market this?
This is amazing. What do we do? And it's, I mean, I think it's considered literary, but it doesn't read that way. It was just really incredibly engaging. So those were two of my favorites. I loved The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I'm looking at my bookshelf because it really was a good year. I can't see it. Oh, what was the name? I can see the cover and I can't see the title. Shoot.
A green book?
Pink. What is it called? Oh, I can describe it and I can't even name the author.
We'll try describing it and we'll play librarian.
Okay. It's a romantic comedy, but it's two guys set against a reality show.
Charm Offensive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was going to drive me crazy. I loved that book.
That was a really good book.
So much fun. It was fantastic. And then, of course, one of my favorite books right now that I just started is Unsafe Haven, I believe. It's Lucy Burdett stepping into thrillers.
Oh.
Very exciting. And she does an amazing job with it. Great premise. And then, of course, you know, I'm a part of the blog Jungle Red Writers. So Reese Bowen had a new book out, which was fantastic. And Hank Fullsby Ryan did Her Perfect Life, which was great. I'm trying to think if I missed anybody because I don't want them mad at me. But I'm also a devout cozy reader, you know. So Kate Carlisle just had hers come out. And she did, one of my favorites is Little Black Book that came out in the spring from her Bibliophile series. That was fantastic. And then a book I'm looking forward to is Paige Shelton's Alaskan series. I think it's called Dark Night. So that one's exciting too. But I'm trying to think, who else did I read? Another one I really, really loved was Abby Taylor Starts Over. I think
that's gotten a lot of love.
Yeah, I liked that one a lot. And then Alyssa Cole's thriller. I think she won the Edgar for it.
Mm-hmm.
I read that this summer and I loved that one too. So, yeah. How many books do you read? I mean, just in your average life, like,
About
I want to know if I'm doing well or not.
in a month.
That's good. That's good.
Well,
that's like one every 2 days, right?
2 days,
3
depends.
days. Yeah.
Sometimes I'll read like 3 in 1 week, and then
you got a break. Yeah, and I break. Cause I think I tend to read one every other day. It takes me about 2 days to read a book. So, so we're on track. I'm sure I'm forgetting a million books that I really love, but what about you? What was your favorite book of the summer? I have to ask you.
Well, I've had lots. I love The Charm Offensive. Erica Ridley had a book that came out in October, and if you love historical romance, it's part of her Wild Winchesters family series. It's called Perks of Loving a Wallflower.
I think I have that one. I think I have that.
Probably told you have to.
I think you did.
One of the little things in the book is one of the family members. They're a group of 6 basically orphans who are brought together and form a family by a wealthy nobleman, like you do in Regency England.
Of course.
They all have special skills. One's a pickpocket, one's a forger, one can disguise herself. And the Wallflower one, the protagonist is gifted at disguising herself, and she has to help a blue stocking whose friend has developed a code and whose uncle is appropriating ownership of that code. So they're trying to steal back the code. But while they're doing this, the 2 women discover that they want to be more than just business acquaintances.
I love it. I love it.
One of those books where you talk about the writing and it just pulls you in. She's so witty and intelligent and smart and clever, and it's just so romantic. And there's homing kittens in the book.
Oh,
that's how they send messages back and forth.
That's moving to the top of my TBR. Top. I'm in.
Yeah, I just never heard of her until I got that book, and I just completely was blown away by it. We should take some questions from your millions of fans.
Millions.
Millions. And the first question is, how much input do you have into your book covers?
I have to say my publisher's great, Penguin Random House. They always ask. My editor will go to a meeting with the art department, and always before the meeting, she will say, what do you picture for your cover? And sometimes I can describe it, and sometimes I'm like, so like for the plot and the pendulum, I'm like, well, can it have a raven on it? Because we're doing that kind of pose, like there's a Poe element in it. And they were like, okay, is it a flying raven? Is it a sitting raven? Like, what you got a picture? Like, I don't have a picture of a raven, but I can Google it. So I'll pull together, 4 or 5 elements, and then the cover artists are tremendous. Like Julia Green is the artist for the library series. And for example, last year's Library Lovers book was one where they get married, and it's set against December. And I had just been to Paris, and I bought myself a pop-up book in French, which I can't read, but it's Beauty and the Beast, and it's beautiful. So I just fell in love with it. I'm like, it's a pop-up book. So they said, what would you like for the cover of one for the book? And I said, can you make it look like a pop-up? And they didn't hang up on me, and whatever. And it's probably one of the most beautiful covers ever. She just nailed it. So, and the guy who does the cupcake book, same thing. And then the London Hat Shop people, they always make it kind of look like a watercolor. So, and I didn't ask for that. I will just be like, can you shove a red bus on it? Double decker, and said, there it is. But then they give it all those beautiful elements. And even like the summer book, Wait for It, that you were talking about, it's like, they said, what do you see? And I said, well, the desert, and it's a beautiful, it's behind me.
It's that one. It also gives you that summer reading vibe, that beach book.
Yeah, they're in a pool, but the desert's behind them. I thought it kind of reminds me of that movie Palm Springs a little bit, had that kind of vibe. So I have a little bit of input, but I'm just really fortunate they have amazing artists who can run with it.
And I've also just noticed that you painted your fingernails to match the cover of your book, didn't you?
Always.
All the time.
I try every book. Isn't that ridiculous? It's so girly, and I'm so not a girly girl, so it's kind of hilarious.
The next question is, do you have a favorite social media platform?
Instagram, hands down, even though it's owned by Facebook, and Facebook's kind of whatever they're going through right now. I like Instagram because it's picture driven, and I'm sure there's hate on Instagram. I just haven't had to deal with it. I have seen a lot of hate on Facebook. I've definitely seen it on Twitter. I haven't really warmed up to TikTok yet. I've got, as I told my friends, I'm on TikTok, but I'm present but absent because there's like one little video, and it's just one more platform I can't deal with.
Apparently, though, it's like the rage for
publishing. It is totally the rage. Well, it's the kids. The kids can. It's like Snapchat. I have tried to figure out Snapchat like 600 times, and my phone will be like, "Mom, all you have to do," and I'm just like, "This, it's no." It's like, you're talking math. I don't even know what you're saying. So, and I'm TikTok. But here's my thing. Okay, this is my thing with social media, and all authors. The things that crack me up. These are the things that crack me up about social media. There's a ton of authors who will sit there and be like, I'm an introvert. I am such an introvert. I'm a book person like you. I'm a complete introvert. And then they're like on every social media platform. They're putting up videos. They're in costume. I'm like, how is that an introvert? I'm an extrovert. I don't have time or energy or interest for this. So yay you, but you're not an introvert, I don't think. Or maybe this is, I don't know. Like, I can't even wrap my head around that. And then the other thing is, don't you have a deadline? Like, I have deadlines. I would love to live on social media. It seems like it would be fun. I have 1 hour a day. That's it. That's all social, and that's all social media, because otherwise the books don't get written. And I think that's my job. So social media is yet another love-hate. And maybe that's why I like Instagram, because it's pictures. Yeah. And nobody can really, they can insult you, but I think you can delete them. I'm not sure.
Also probably uses a different side of your creative brain. You're not using words, you're using images.
It's restful. I find it more restful. Although now they're doing reels and videos, and I've fallen into the rabbit hole where the reels, the little short movies will open up, and the next thing I know, an hour has gone by, and I'm like, well, there goes today. That's the designated time for the day. So it scares me in a way, because it's just, a trap. It's a trap. But Instagram is my favorite right now.
The last question I have from one of your readers is, who are some of your favorite classic mystery writers?
Ooh, if we're going back, it's always Agatha Christie. I think, I believe my librarian brain is telling me that she sold the most books of any author ever. I think that's right. And I definitely cut my teeth on Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
But I also loved Elizabeth Peters, Victoria Holt, Phyllis Whitney. I don't know if she was a mystery writer, though.
You always have to put the A in.
Oh, yes, you're right. Phyllis A. Whitney. You're right. But I was a big Nancy Drew head. I loved, I didn't really, this is kind of bad. I didn't start reading male mystery writers till I was in my 20s. And then it was, like Robert Craze and Harlan Coben and, guys like that. But before that, I really skewed kind of towards female authors. So it was mostly, I love Daphne du Maurier. My favorite, and I wish it would come back. And I hear you'll hear rumors like, oh, Gothic's coming back.
It is.
I haven't really seen it. It is, but it's not like as prevalent. Like when I was a teen, it was. Victoria Holt was everywhere.
But there's actually a book, there's been several books, but watch next spring. I think it's March or April, Hacienda is the title. I can't think of the author now, but it's Mexican Gothic meets Rebecca. It's set in Mexico, so it's got all this classic element. Actually,
I read Mexican Gothic. I liked that one.
It's published by a publisher. Tell them to send you a copy.
Yes.
Berkeley.
Come on. Oh, I will.
Send you two, and then send one to me.
I will. What was the title again?
Hacienda.
Okay, I'm on it, John. I'm on it. One of the cozy authors that I like is Julia Buckley.
Yeah, and she does that series about the writer that does the Gothics.
She did it. The first one was Dark and Stormy Night, and I loved that one. And now she's writing under a pseudonym, and I'm kicking myself because I got to read it, and I can't. But I think it's Castle Dark. It's something like that. But it It is one of the best cozy with gothic elements I've read in.
Is that the one with the acting troupe?
Yes, it's so good. It's so good. I loved it. I loved that one. So I would like to see gothic like come back like big time. And I would like to write one, maybe.
Well, apparently people panicked when I said we were out of time for questions. So you've got a few more that you have to answer.
No problem.
So your first question is, what candy did you give out for Halloween, and what is your own favorite kind of candy?
I love Halloween. I usually deck my house out and I love it. This year I didn't deck my house out. I didn't answer my door. My husband and I pulled the curtain and we watched a horror movie and we ate popcorn and Reese's peanut butter cups because those are our current favorite. It will change, but yeah, this year I don't know why I just could not. We thought about putting a bucket of candy out for kids to take, and I don't know. There's just been so much stuff. We lost for those, most people know, but we've suffered a recent spate of tragedies, people and our dog. So it's just been like, I don't know what Christmas is going to look like. I could go full on bah humbug. I have no idea. But I was just like, I looked at my husband, I'm like, I don't have it in me this year. And he was like, no, me neither. Let's just get scared. So we watched Halloween Kills because I love Jamie Lee Curtis.
Next question is, how do you shift gears between writing romance and mystery? But there's a lot of the same voice in both books.
Yeah, I think my voice is my voice. I try to escape me, but it doesn't really work. I think what's interesting about both genres is mysteries have helped me be a better romance writer because the plots were sadly lacking when I was first writing romance. My plotting was not great because it's hard for me to torture my characters, but mysteries help me learn how to torture people. So yay. And then I think romance helped me be a better mystery writer because the thing I love about romance is that you really are, it's a study in vulnerability, and it helped me to write mystery characters who become vulnerable. There's always a kind of rom-com subplot in my mysteries. And I think the whole point of having characters who fall in love or divorced or cheated on or whatever they're going through is that you get to show that underbelly. So not just the solving of the mystery, but that they're a real three-dimensional person who, suffers loss or, whatever, or falls in love and is all stupid like we are, as you are. So I think they complement each other.
Okay, finally, will there be another Paris set romance? Or are you trying to write off a trip to a different European capital?
I have a little idea bubbling. The next big romance is called Summer Reading, and it's set on Martha's Vineyard because I wanted to go to Martha's Vineyard. But I ended up Martha's Vineyard. Fascinating. What it was before it became a trendy spot for rich people, and Chappaquiddick was really when that changed. And it was really just a New England place where people would go. But I have family members, in-laws, who are from the Azores. And I didn't know that there were sections of Martha's Vineyard called Little Portugal. So there's a very large Portuguese contingent. So then the heroine in Summer Reading is Portuguese, and she's a chef, and she's also dyslexic. And she falls for a hot librarian guy, because of course you do. And then the next one is it's called To Be Read, and I think that one might go to Europe. Kind of seeing what I can get away with there.
Well, I can't believe we're out of time. You've just been a delight as always, Jenn. Your latest book is Killer Research, out now. Jenn will be signing copies. If you'd like a copy, feel free to give us a call at the Poison Pen. Go online and order it. We have copies of her previous books, including Wait For It. That always makes a wonderful gift for anyone who needs a lift in their life.
Oh, thank you. Good to see you again, John. Always a pleasure.
Always a delight to see you. Thank you for writing such wonderful books. Thank you for listening and tuning in to another author event at the Poison Pen.
Hello. We hope you're enjoying our programs and podcasts with authors. We'd like to expand them, and your help would be appreciated. please make a donation at poisonedpenfoundation.org. 100% of the proceeds will go to help connect authors with readers in this difficult time. Thank you.